Good evening, Guardians, and welcome back to Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast. I'm your host, Josh, as always. And joining our fire team, we called him the Dollar Tree Titan last time. Our other Titans took a little bit of offense to that. They were offended for him, the one, the only, Mr. Yeetus Deletus himself. A1 Johnny.
Thanks for having me back.
John, how's it going, man? We're recording this late tonight.
A little late.
Little late, but no one better to talk late night Destiny with. Destiny After Dark, you might call it. Oh. That's the title of today's episode, Destiny After Dark. We have a really packed show today, which we did not plan for. At the start of the week, I did not think this was going to happen, and it has slowly gotten worse and worse, in a good way.
Yeah, especially the TWAB after a raid launch is usually just a clap on the back. Hey, look at the raid launch.
Right. It is that. We address worlds first in it. They address some of the cheeses people have been finding for Atheon already, but there's a whole lot of stasis nerfs coming. Whole lot of stasis PvP.
Praise be the traveler.
God, dude, I've never seen changes in this game be so universally praised by the entire community so
Not
quickly.
Since Bottom Tree Striker dominated everything pre-Shadowkeep, I think.
Yeah, that was pretty bad too. I was in an LFG today, and we were holding a funeral for Star Eater Strides. Our second funeral in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I don't like that this is becoming a recurring thing.
Changes.
I have thoughts on those changes. If we have time, we're going to get to those tonight. Yeah. But to start things off, just to give you guys an idea of where the roadmap's going tonight, we're going to talk our favorite drops out of Vault. We're going to talk Expunge. We're going to talk the TWAB. And of course, most of our time is going to be spent on Vault with a very quick lore corner at the end for some of the stuff going on this season. We want to really keep up with that lore book, because if you're not reading Beneath the Endless Night, you are missing out on some of the best storytelling Destiny has done for its NPCs, maybe ever. It's really fleshing out some characters we don't normally get lore about, especially this week. We get the return of factions. So let's dive right onto it. John, you and I were on the same team for the raid race on Saturday.
Day one. We
made a valiant effort. For those of you who don't know, it was myself, John, Colonel Panic, Nerd Generalist, and then our friends, Mr. Hot Cheeks and Soundless Logo. Man, it's a lot harder than it was.
Yeah.
It's an awful lot harder. We did not emerge victorious during contest mode. However, we came right back on Monday night and literally turned Atheon into a gigantic metal punching bag.
Oh, we cheese graded him.
Dude, cheese graded Team Velveeta, baby. John, we got some good loot out of those runs, though. We've since completed it another time. We did it again last night.
Yep.
On Wednesday. I've run it another time in addition, and I've helped some other Guardians get through that Templar encounter if they were having problems, just kind of hanging out there with the checkpoint, with Gatekeepers and with Atheon. Let's talk about some of these weapons, though. So between you and I, we've gotten, I think, every weapon.
I think so. I finally got Vision of Confluence. I ran it one more time with a PC group last night, and I finally got Vision of Confluence. I haven't had time to test it out yet.
The only two I don't have right now, I do not have Praedyth's Revenge, and I do not have, oh God, I'm blanking on the name of it, but the shotgun. I do not have the shotgun.
Let me see here. I think I have it right here on my Guardian. Isn't it? No, not Vision. What is it? Found Verdict.
Scout. Found Verdict. Okay. Yeah. I almost said Retold Tale, and I knew that wasn't right. But out of these weapons, John, I know which one you're loving. So why don't you go ahead, as somebody who never experienced Fatebringer in year one, in Destiny 1, please tell me about how much you love Fatebringer right now.
So and
tell us all your role on it.
Okay, so I had almost 100 spoils when we went in, because I'd had some saved up from Deepstone Crypt. I have all the rolls I want out of that raid.
Same here.
So I dropped all of my spoils on Fatebringer rolls once I finally got the drop, and I finally landed on a Thresh Firefly roll for PvE.
Thresh Firefly.
Yeah. And I love this thing. It's just, this has been my opinion of Dragonfly as well forever. I don't know if it's good, but it's fucking fun, and I love it. Every time you land that crit shot and they explode, and they, deal damage to everything around them, it just feels so good. With the added benefit on Firefly of getting that faster reload, I just love this weapon. It's actually what I used on my PC run of Vault last night, and it was doing a lot of work. Of course, Vex make you work for those precision kills. They like to crouch.
So it's funny because I hear everybody say that all the time, and I understand the criticism. But at the same time, I'm like one of a handful of people, I guess, who does not have a gigantic problem with hitting crits on Vex, ironically.
Yeah.
Those goblins and those harpies, man, they just die.
I guess it's just compared to other races like Hive or Fallen.
Right.
You can easily just go drag head to drag head to drag head and get those multiple explosions all right in a row, you know. But yeah, no, this hand cannon feels great. I've got a couple other rolls. I'm curious to try it out in the Crucible. I've got an explosive rounds frenzy roll. That's pretty fun. But for Crucible, I've got the rewind rounds opening shot, and I said that first try without making that rewind rounds. Oh, there we go.
So I got a Fatebringer too, and I haven't gotten a chance to try it out yet. I'm not, for everybody who listens, you know that I'm not a big hand cannon guy, but I got opening shot and explosive payload with a range masterwork. I'm pretty excited to try this out. I got accurized rounds. I've got a small bore on it. I'm excited to see how this works because I'm slowly starting to get used to hand cannons. I still don't like them. If I'm going to use a hand cannon, it's probably going to be Crimson because it's basically a pulse.
Yeah, that's cheating. That's not a hand cannon.
You know what? Fuck you. It works. Speaking of cheating, though, John, you know what is cheating because it labels itself as a fusion, and this thing is just it's a goddamn pulse rifle and a linear fusion all in one.
Here we go.
First try. Vex Mythoclast, baby. First try. I have used up all of my RNG for the rest of the Millennium, as John can tell you, as someone who got Anarchy, his first ever raid. I'm never going to get good drops ever again.
My man has streamer loot happening right
here. Your man had streamer loot and was not, in fact, streaming. If you could hear the sounds that left my body upon seeing that exotic Ingram on the ground, they were not entirely human. I'm pretty sure my neighbors banged on the wall because it was about midnight when it happened. Well, excuse me, no, it was later than that. It was probably around 1 o'clock in the morning when it happened. But we were led to believe, myself and my LFG were led to believe that there was a way that you could farm for Vex Mythoclast. There is, in fact, not a way you can farm for Vex Mythoclast, but you can get 3 chances a week, as usual with your characters. You don't actually have to try, though. If you, straight out of the Gatekeeper encounter, you can spawn your people who were on Venus in that encounter can spawn in. Atheon's body will be standing there, and you can literally primary it to death, which is what I did. And then you still get the pinnacle loot from it. So
do you at least get spoils?
I got spoil. Yeah, you can get spoils that way.
Okay.
Yeah. No, but there's so many other quicker spoils farms than going through the Gatekeeper encounter and killing Atheon. Anyways, come out of it and everyone's like, oh, we just got legendaries and this and that. And I walked up and they were like, okay, well, let's go to orbit. And before I was like, nobody is fucking going to orbit right now. Hang on just one goddamn minute. I walked over it, put it on. I'm pretty sure I almost made Mr. Hot Cheeks rage quit right away. But Vex Mythoclast, he and I played hundreds of hours of Destiny 1. Had a few completions of Vault. Never grinded Vault like we have Deepstone or Scourge of the Past or any of these others for these exotics. First drop, so excited. I love that gun. It's not exactly a PvE powerhouse. They've definitely nerfed it since Destiny 1, and that's a good thing because that gun was...
They should.
It was terrorism in a rifle.
Yeah, I've been killed by it plenty. I've never held it in mine own hands, but I've been on the receiving end.
It's very cool. I love what they've done to earn the catalyst.
Yep.
It's outside of Acreus. It's the first real actual viable raid weapon that's gotten a catalyst.
Yeah.
And you actually have to work for it too. It's not just go complete the raid on prestige mode. There's a lot of shit you got to go do in this. I thought for sure it would be a reward for completing master mode.
Yeah.
And it was not, which made me really surprised. But I like it. I took it into some lost sectors. it's not going to light your world up on PvE. PvP is where that gun's going to be an absolute monster because it's a fusion rifle that is really a super long range pulse and a very hard hitting pulse at that, as well as when you get the overcharge shot. Now, this is something when you do it in PvP, it's going to be hard to get that overcharge shot. It's probably going to take you 2 or 3 kills to get those.
It's 2 kills to get it.
2 kills. 2 kills. Still, 2 kills in the Crucible. Like,
yeah.
For Crucible gods, that's going to be easy. Like, I don't expect this to terrorize in Trials.
Yeah, once you get it by all intents and purposes has the same like damage and time to kill as a 360 auto rifle. So not the best place, but honestly I'm fine with that because like we just said, it was a monster in Destiny 1.
I feel like fusions are getting a buff next season, so they usually tend to buff whatever was just the pinnacle gun. They tend to buff that soon after, or whatever gets the unstoppable mod, which in succession has been, or excuse me, I think it's barrier. Yeah,
well, we had sniper anti-barrier, and then this season we have grenade unstoppable.
Yeah, so
maybe next season overload fusion.
Dude, if we get overload fusion, I swear to God, I'm running Vex Mythoclast on everything, because you get a stupid amount of ammo in that gun. You get like 400 rounds without reserves. Oh my God, thing's a monster. I love it. That's my drop of the week.
Yeah.
Fucking Vex Mythoclast.
And those linear fusion shots, they're not bad. It's a little under what Arbalest does, but for something that uses primary ammo.
Oh my God, dude, it's filthy. This thing is illegal. It should never have been brought back. John, hit me with your second favorite drop of the week.
Okay, so I've got to shout out, and I'm normally not an auto rifle guy, but Chroma Rush, I've just fallen in love with this gun. And my very first drop of the season was Tunnel Vision Rampage.
I want to shout out all the weapons in general real fast. Corey and I went over this last week, but not just the weapons for the season, but you've got the Splicer weapons, you've got the Future War Cult suite of weapons, you've got the Vault of Glass weapons, you've got the Iron Banner weapons, the new Nightfall weapon. Yeah, you've got the new Nightfall weapons, you've got the new drops in Vanguard, Crucible, and Gambit. Everything feels so good this season. There are genuinely great roles to go pursue on every single gun, I feel.
Yep.
And we haven't had this since the seasonal system started. This is what we dreamed of. And not to mention, I mean, I got a bone to pick with the exotics, but the exotics are good this season.
Yeah. And we still have 2 exotics to find.
Oh my God. I'm so ready.
Yeah.
John, hit me with those Chroma Rushes though. So Tunnel Vision and Rampage.
Yeah. I mean, the ideal would be Tunnel Vision Kill Clip because Tunnel Vision procs on reloading after a kill, so they but Rampage still does the same, especially in PvE. It's solid.
I've been using the same role as you for the record.
Yeah, and just especially with anti-barrier on autos this season, it just feels so good. And I've played around with 720s before. I fucked around with Misfit. I never
got on the Misfit train, but I like this. But it has to be in certain scenarios. I mainly like this in the Crucible. In higher end PvE, I took it in on day 1. It was a little rough. Just because it burns through the clips so fast and you can't always kill an orange bar with that.
Yeah.
That's my one thing, but it beat having a scout on, so it was kind of like, well, if I run this, I can at least run Trustee in my energy slot if I'm not already on divinity duty. The other role... Oh, go ahead.
I was about to say the thing that makes this stand out versus any other 720 auto that I've played with before, I'm looking at these stats right now. It has 80 stability, 80 aim assist.
Yeah.
Those are monster stats for a bullet hose like this. That was my problem with Misfit as much as I liked it for Goofs. It was just really unreliable because it's literally a bullet hose. You're spraying all over the place. This thing shoots so
The
straight.
role I've really been enjoying, and I can't remember if I talked about this role last week, I've been enjoying heating up Kill Clip.
Yeah. If I could trade out Tunnel Vision for heating up on this,
heating up is probably my new favorite perk of the season.
Yeah.
Aside from a raid specific perk that I want to get into very quickly. Again, we got so much to talk about tonight.
We can talk about Fatebringer for an hour. That's fine.
God, that's a dream. Vision of Confluence. I have one with rewind rounds, which is a new perk. I want to pull this up because I want to get the wording exactly correct before I screw it up. But rewind rounds, when the magazine is empty, it refills from reserves based on the number of hits. So I've noticed, and I've seen a lot of people go, "Oh, I only get like 7 or 8 rounds." Like 7 or 8 rounds out of a 16 clip weapon is pretty damn good.
Especially for an instant reload,
Right.
It's not
it instant reloads, and then when that winds down, like that's it, you're done.
Yeah.
Like you're good. Yeah. It eventually makes you, like, it may give you like 2 or 3, and then it'll eventually wind itself down, and you're gonna have to refill the gun. But it reloads so fast. At least for me, like this gun reloads so fast. I have a stability masterwork on it, and I have frenzy as my other perk. As well as flared magwell. I'm loving vision. It's just I'm so used to faster firing scouts now that a 180 doesn't always do it for me.
It's kind of the sin of this season that they gave us vision and hung jury back, and 180 scouts are kind of just ass in the sandbox.
But this thing hits like a motherfucking 18 wheeler. Let me tell you, like 3 hits down somebody in the Crucible. I personally really like this gun. It's like hung jury. Like, I think you had to have used them. Part of it is the nostalgia of Destiny 1, but part of it is also like we're hoping now with, if they ever buff 180 scouts, those will be 2 of the most. They're going to be 2 of the most dominant PvE weapons in the entire game. I still think in Crucible, I mean, I take Night Watch in the Crucible, which isn't too much faster than this, but with having rapid hit and drop mag on that, that's just, it's invaluable for a scout. Trustee, I think, is still king in PvP if you can land those shots. Like our friend Max used to run rampant with Randy's throwing knife.
Yeah.
And Trustee is a love letter to everyone who loved that gun.
Yeah. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on where you're sitting, the thing you got to beat out is Dead Man's Tail at scout ranges, and that thing is.
And I mean, that's the thing. Like, Dead Man's is a 120, and it's basically a glorified hand cannon in a lot of ways.
It's like a Joker's hand cannon from Michael Keaton's.
Once you have the catalyst, though, that thing just becomes an absolute monster. They've already teased some nerfs coming to it.
Yeah.
Man, I don't see it running as rampant in PvP.
Yeah.
I will say that, which maybe that's because I'm not playing the right mode for it, but I'm a little terrified of momentum control coming back at reset, because that's all it's going to be. Dead Man's control.
I cannot wait to take Dead Man's.
I'm excited. I'm excited to take that, and Vision is going to be a fucking nightmare in there.
Yep.
That's going to hit like Jade Rabbit.
That's where you're gonna see your Firefly hung Jerry's get whipped out.
My god, dude! I'm so excited. I'm so ready. But we're gonna depart and leave our exotic Ingrams behind. We're gonna talk very, very briefly about Expunge, the new. Well, it was advertised as a Pinnacle activity. Cosmo has confirmed we're not going to get Pinnacle loot until June 15th, I believe. It's the first day that'll start dropping, because they're going to have a new series of unlocks on the Splicer Gauntlet that will let you earn specific targeted loot from that.
Yeah.
It'll give you reasons to run it again. We have time trial achievements coming, which some of them are like do a certain one, which we haven't unlocked yet, in under 6 minutes. If you're telling me I can really run this in under 6 minutes and get guaranteed loot every time, I'm going to run it.
Yeah.
That's so much faster to me going and doing an override. But until then, they're going to give us a piece of high-statted armor each week when you do your first completion until then. Wish I would have known that before I just deleted the armor piece I got from it out of rage. So I don't know if it was actually good. I've heard a lot of people say like, "Oh, I just got something with like a 61 stat roll." Like,
I think mine was 63. But
auto delete.
Yeah.
So Expunge. Oh, go ahead.
I was about to say, I believe the mechanism is there because we don't have the free high stat armor in the season pass anymore.
That's exactly what they confirmed. Yeah, that's exactly what they confirmed. And it's like, I wish you would have made that kind of clear to us. Speaking of the seasonal armor, I still have not gotten the Hunter Cloak even once.
Really?
I have not.
You need that Wolf Cloak, baby.
Dude, I need the Wolf Cloak. I need to join the Night's Watch, baby. If anybody needs to join it, it's old Captain Cakes over here. But John, Expunge. This is everything that I had kind of like hoped to see going into the Vex network. This
Yeah.
builds on what we see in the override missions. I've seen a lot. This kind of has the community divided right now. I think a lot of people agree the aesthetic is just cool, period.
Yeah.
But I've seen a lot complain, and it tends to be people who farther down in their posts complain that they're bad at jumping puzzles. Well, just because you suck ass at jumping puzzles doesn't mean the rest of us should be punished. Um, I like this. It's something different. There's not a lot of combat in it, but you are having to move through this labyrinth. It's literally called Labyrinth. You're having to move through this as quickly as possible using precision jumps. Hunters finally were the best in something. I really, really like this. I've run it 3 times, I think. I'm trying to get that sub 10-minute achievement, and I'm pretty sure you have to have the shortcuts in order to do it.
Yeah.
I've gotten to 10.5 minutes is the quickest I've done it. So 30 seconds away, I know exactly where I got to cut those seconds off at. What do you think? Because the complaints I've seen have largely centered on it's just jumping. It's just a big jumping puzzle. It's not as cool as Whisper. You don't get something like you. At least Presage gave us an exotic at the end. Like this community has
didn't
become
everyone
so
complain about
fucking
exotics with
entitled.
random rules too?
Yep. They've complained about that. I believe Bungie's already confirmed we're not getting another random rolled exotic for quite some time.
Yeah, they said it's not off the table, but this isn't something they're going to do with every exotic.
I'll tell you right now. I feel like Dead Man should not have been a random rolled exotic.
Mm-hmm. It made sense for Hawkmoon, and honestly, I'm not
Hawkmoon
mad
had
about
such a problematic perk to begin with.
Yeah.
That if you brought that back, you had to do that.
Yeah.
I personally I was okay with Dead Man's doing it. I mean, like every roll for Dead Man's, it's ironic. Like just about every roll. I shouldn't say every roll. Almost every roll. Like 5 out of the 6 you can get have purposes.
Yeah.
So I don't think
I got a snapshot sights Dead Man's. I don't want to use that in PvE, but in PvP, snapshots on that thing is awesome.
I've got a snapshot for PvP, and I've got a subsistence for PvE. I was using Vorpal for a while. God, I've fallen out of love with Vorpal. There's so many other options for that column now that it's not like king shit like it used to be.
No.
Unless you're talking like slug shotties.
It has specific uses.
I think swords and slug shotties, it's still really good.
And from the PvP side, having Vorpal on a sniper lets you challenge supers.
Right.
Really easy. But yeah.
Give me those Presage thoughts though, John.
So I think Expunge is beautiful and awesome. I wasn't expecting an exotic or anything too crazy from it, especially since they revealed it on the roadmap. I feel like if it was
right.
You know what I mean? Like Presage came out of nowhere and it was like, holy shit, what is this? Let's dive in. Let's, but yeah, I think it's awesome. I think oddly enough, not to derail this conversation here, the one thing I was thinking as I was running through Expunge is, man, I'm sad that this environment is so beautifully crafted and we're going to lose it after a year. And also, god damn it, I would love a Crucible map in this environment.
I really want a Crucible map, and this is the point that Corey and I made when we first did the override was it's going to be an actual crime against humanity if Bungie does not do a Crucible arena and a Gambit arena in this aesthetic.
Yeah. It's so cool. I don't want to see it everywhere or overused, but yeah, they did such an awesome job with this weird Tron aesthetic.
Such a great job. I kind of wish that the soundtrack reflected that too.
They went for a synthwave thing.
I'm bopping to the soundtrack. Don't get me wrong. Michael Salvatore's killing it, but my Daft Punk dreams have been dashed. So again, the Expunge is going to be something we talk about every week. There are 3 missions that we currently know of that are each going to have a corrupted variant of sorts.
Yeah.
So I expect we'll be able to pull these missions ourselves from the director. In due time, because there's going to be 2 different types. There's going to be some challenges associated with them once we hit June. I think that's when you're probably going to see the first exotic drop, is when these corrupted versions happen.
Yeah.
And you'll see your first exotic of the season, and the other one's likely going to be tied to Solstice of Heroes.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, the first exotic of the season sucks. That Stasis side. Oh, God. That's a topic for another day. Because, John, we've got a lot of Stasis to talk about.
Oh, are they doing something with Stasis, Josh?
They're doing something with Stasis over in the TWAB, John. We mainly have Stasis news. Quick shout out to at the top of the TWAB to Clan Elysium that got that world's first. They did their first run of Vault. They're in contest mode. Their first clear was done in an hour 45.
Yeah.
And I believe they secured world's first about 3 hours after that. So that's fucking bonkers. Jesus. GG's. GG's. Yeah. I think about that time is when we were maybe getting ready to move on to Oracles. So, which not bad by any means, especially when you hear about some teams that struggled for like 3 hours outside to get the vault open.
Yeah.
I felt a lot better about it taking us.
About us screaming for 30 minutes in utter panic until the door opened.
It was pretty bad. We finally figured it out. Of course, if you're not stopping those Minotaurs, baby. But Stasis. So it's no secret. We've all complained about. I've done it a lot on this show, complaining about Stasis and PvP. I'm usually one of those wait and see type people. Well, I waited and saw, and finally last season, Crucible just became unplayable for me. Especially, it was really Guardian games that kind of tipped it that way because there were so many Hunters playing, so many Ice Tornadoes, so many Shurikens, so many fucking Dusk Field grenades, so many Cold Snap grenades. That Warlock super infuriates me every time I see it. I'm done. I'm done with it. I can't do it anymore. PvP is unplayable. It's not fun.
Yeah.
I'm torturing myself right now to get those challenges done. Iron Banner was somehow playable this time. I don't know how that happened, but it was somehow playable. Stasis. So they've been trying to figure out how to nerf this without completely destroying it in PvE. That's part of the delicate balance. I really like that they brought in Kevin Yanes from the gameplay team. He kind of talked about their philosophy behind it, and he says when they set out to define the future of PvP, the pillars they kind of made were weapons are the primary way players engage in combat. Good. The gunplay in Destiny is so ridiculously good; it needs to be at the forefront.
Yeah.
This is Bungie. This is these guys who made Halo, for God's sake. Like, we want their gunplay at the front. Non-super abilities accentuate or augment the combat, but should rarely solve an encounter by themselves. Agreed. Ding, ding, ding. I should not keep getting one-hit killed by fucking Titan shield bashes, by Hunter throwing knives, by Warlock melees. That's all some absolute horse shit. That should be able to take me down to where you still need to pop me a couple times. The shield should, throw me back, and you should be able to pull out a pistol and whip me with it. Shoot me one time or something, or toss a grenade onto me, something like that. Grenades should not insta-kill me when I step onto an arc grenade. Things like that. Abilities of clear strengths, weaknesses, and counterplay. There is no way to counterplay a Titan shield bash. Did you know that, John? As a Titan main, did you know that?
It's called having situational awareness.
It's called fucking bullshit is what it's called. When you are 20 feet away from me and hit that melee button, it should not insta-warp you to me.
I can confirm as a Titan main. So here's the scoop, and I'll tell you. With shield or with shoulder charge on any of the trees, because they all work almost exactly the same, other than the shield bash suppresses, so you can take someone out of a super with it. You have to put yourself in such dangerous scenarios to do that, and not to say that you and I are not good, but Josh, we're not good. But against good players, if you try to run in and ape them with a shoulder charge, unless you happen to come around a corner and surprise someone, most of the time they're going to see what you're doing. You see those wisps around the Titan as they're running towards you, and you're going to get gunned down before you get close to them. Anyways,
I stand by my point. It's some utter bullshit.
Gunplay is the focus.
Build crafting is rewarded with moment-to-moment combat loop of Destiny, and that's really how it should be. You shouldn't have to have a specific mod to shut down an entire subclass.
Yeah, or a specific exotic.
Right. Right. And I mean, I think we generally agree with all of these. For me, it always has been about the gunplay and about my build and things like that. Like, I've never worried too much about my abilities in something like the Crucible, because the way I play is I try to keep my distance.
Yeah.
I'm very much I'm the scout player. I'm a scout player. I'm a pulse player. I don't like sniping, but I'm kind of like that mid-range guy. Not really at a distance unless I have a really, really good scout. But I'm also usually not throwing myself into the line of fire unless I'm capturing a point in control.
Yeah.
To that end, Stasis has really been like the absolute worst for people who like to get up in everybody's face, not shotgun apes, because you're usually killing them before they get it off.
Yeah.
But it has been the worst for people who rely on sidearms, auto rifles, SMGs, I would say to an extent, pulses and scouts.
Or
really, if you rely on mid
to yeet from the air and push in and try to make plays.
Right. I mean, like, dude, how many times have you gotten frozen in the air when you're trying to smash down?
Yeah, and not even using my super, but I do that all the time when I'm pushing with my team, even in trials when it's just 3v3.
Right.
I'll push in, try to make a play, knowing that you and Max or whoever we're playing with has my back, and I'm trying to be a big dumb distraction so we could get the. But when you do that and you just get the Warlock just pressed right bumper, and now I'm just standing here frozen like an asshole. Or, I got tagged by a shuriken as I was making my approach. Now I can't do anything, and I'm sitting out in a lane,
So there's a lot here from Kevin. I encourage everyone to go and read this. As usual, when we have big gameplay changes, I encourage everyone to go read the text. They're going to phrase it better than I ever could, and just simply, I'm not going to sit here and read the TWAB to you. That's not fun for any of us.
Yeah.
But the long and short of it is they deployed a patch at the beginning of season 14. It was developed separately from 14, so that screwed with some of the abilities, with some of the other buffs that the gameplay team was making. And so they moved the changes that were supposed to be in season 15 up by a whole season to deploy, and they're going to deploy on Tuesday because the game literally was becoming an unplayable state for regular PvP.
Yeah.
It was a nightmare. They break down some of the numbers you see in trials. For example, 36% of all trials players since the deployment of Stasis have been Stasis hunters,
which is insane.
Absolutely insane. Break down a couple of the numbers as we get through here, but they say it's important to note shifting the focus on the patch that is coming on Tuesday, shifting our focus to that when it was supposed to deploy next season is a considerable cost to the team. So it's unlikely mid-season patches of this scope will become a regular occurrence. Yeah. It is really important that everyone keeps that in mind. I sound like a huge Bungie apologist regularly. I know that, but
Josh,
these guys...
I don't want you to throw yourself under the bus by calling yourself a Bungie apologist. This is a company ran by people who are there to do their job, and this is a huge thing that they took out of they're building season 15, they're building Witch Queen, they're doing their things. A huge portion of that team stopped to push this through now, and that's
that being said, I do think like when you have a longer season like Arrivals or like how season 15 is going to be, that's probably when you could expect a bigger patch like this. That's something you can't leave unaddressed for 6 months. I'm glad we're getting this now. I'm very grateful because I think it's going to improve PvP for a lot of people. Again, like we said at the top of the show, PvP mains, PvE mains, people who just like to go in there and hang out with their buds like us. Like we play it casually. We're not sweaty tryhards. We'll play trials. We'll pop off 3 or 4 wins, but we're not going to the lighthouse. Like
we don't play 8 hours of Crucible a day.
Right. We're here to have fun with our buds. That's the only mode we can really do with everybody. If we have 4 people, we can go play Gambit, but usually by the time we got 4, we got 5 or 6 coming in.
Yeah.
Crucible's the only thing that we can play. And that's, for better or worse, that's unfortunate. It's either that or a raid. And I don't want to raid every time that people are on. Yeah. I just don't. Like,
sometimes we got 40 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, we got 40 minutes, or like, Max has only got time for 3 or 4 matches because he's got to go to work the next morning, or, by the time y'all are all logging on, it's really late my time, things like that. When we look at this, I want to, talk about their roadmap here a little bit. They say, we're diving back into season 15 after this patch. We're planning to deliver another balance patch focused on updates to the light subclasses and continuing to iterate on Stasis. The goal is to address key pieces of more of the light subclasses viable across the game. Good, because we know that's going to help affect PvE as well. They've already told us that. That's not just PvP. After season 15, things become more nebulous because we're still early in development. As we know, they work about 6 months out.
Yeah.
On gameplay patches like this, they usually have a roadmap, and then they address them probably the season ahead of time because they want to get playtesting done. The reality is, when we hear people say, and we're going to address this kind of during Vault with all the Atheon glitches and cheeses, oh, Bungie doesn't do enough playtesting. You got to understand, Bungie is a company that has QA testers. They are never going to find everything in enough scenarios before it ships. Their best playtest is releasing something to the wild, seeing it doesn't work after a week or two, and immediately working on a fix, which we then get a couple weeks later after it's gone through their internal testing, after it's gone through certification by Microsoft and Sony and Steam, and it takes a while. Like, even a hot fix takes a while. Something like this isn't something they can just flip in the background.
Yeah, they have more data from 5 hours of it being live than 6 months of QA can
exactly
provide. Because you have millions of people, in there.
Literally, there's 1-2 million people playing this game at any given time. They've said some of the things they want to address in 15 going forward. Regeneration rates and redesigning how ability energy economy works across the game. The goal here is to keep the PvE experience largely similar to the state of the game today. Good. PvE is the best it's ever been, in my opinion.
Yeah. And Stasis is fun.
It is fun.
It's so cool.
It plays into that power fantasy, and it complements other abilities. But reduce how often abilities are used in the Crucible. After that, we'll be taking a long, hard look at Void, Solar, and Arc to re-examine each subclass path and how they fit into the combat sandbox. Good, because you want to know something in PvP, as a hunter, you have like 3 options, maybe. And one of those is Stasis.
Yeah.
And I would bet a lot of money that you're getting another Darkness subclass with the Witch Queen, so they got to figure this shit out now.
Yeah. And it really is a shame because I think one of the Hunter's best PvP kits, which is Arc, is completely and totally annihilated by Stasis. Because all of them are, and I feel this as a Titan, but all of the Arc Hunter supers and subclasses are built out around melee kills and dodging around enemies and being up close with people, and you can't
those
do that.
3. So you have those 3. You have Spectral Blades.
Yeah, Middle Tree Night Stalker is
most of Night Stalker is honestly pretty useless unless you're playing Mayhem. Even then, it just works for being the fun police. So you're basically left with Solar or Stasis. And let me tell you, Golden Gun is not a viable path unless you're actually good with it. Speaking from experience,
it's an entire the top and bottom are both around. Hey, land all your shots.
Right. So, and that's fine if you're a hunter who plays a lot of hand cannons. You are literally firing the last word.
Yeah.
So your choices are literally come down to for PvP, Stasis, or are you going to be a little bitch baby like me and use Blade Barrage? And if
which
you
is
have Blade Barrage
finicky to bad, depending on.
Yeah, and Blade Barrage is really temperamental, so it may work, or you may throw it at 3 people. You may get 3 kills, you may get no kills, because it depends on how it decides to work for you that day. So it's literally, I feel like so many hunters are running Stasis because they have no other option. And that's part of the problem. Like, the hunters are supposed to play from afar. Why are all my supers up close?
Yeah.
So, but I digress. I don't want to think about that. We're gonna throw it over to one of the gameplay designers. They're gonna talk about the patch. They go really, really, really in depth here. There is so much here. We're gonna hit a couple of the general ones, and then we're gonna see if there's any big things we want to point out. There's a lot of numbers here, though. So again, this is probably a patch you want to go read up on, or just play for yourself. You're gonna notice the changes because there's so many of them here. Yeah. But one of the big ones that we want to talk about, Stasis Freeze. Reduce duration of all non-super freezes versus players to 1.35 seconds. The freeze is too short to break out, so breaking out is now only possible when frozen by a super. Good. That was a problem.
Yep.
So it's literally going to stop you for about a split second, and then you're done.
Yep.
Which is good, especially with those fucking cold snaps and those fucking dusk fields.
Yep.
Reduce special weapon, heavy weapon, and light ability bonus damage versus frozen players from 50% to 5%.
I'll be honest, I didn't even know they had a bonus damage.
I didn't either, because I'm never alive long enough to find out. I never get to freeze people when I play with Stasis. Stasis slow. This is the big one for Don.
Yeah.
No longer reduces weapon accuracy and increases weapon flinch when under fire. I damn near ran down the apartment hallway this afternoon when John sent this to me. I hadn't read the TWAB yet. I didn't know it was out. I was in the middle of doing some work. I threw my headset down in celebration. I was so happy to see this.
Josh, and this has been my biggest complaint.
We have complained so many times. I swear to God, we must have a direct line to Luke Smith in our headsets, because we've complained about it so much for the last almost 8 months now?
Yep.
We have complained about this nonstop since the day Stasis came out. Also, no longer suppresses class ability and air moves such as Icarus Dash. The Stormcaller's blink is still suppressed when slowed, and they're going to address that in a future update, just in case you're wondering.
Stormcaller's bad anyway. Sorry, Forrest.
Reduced movement speed penalty while slowed by 20%. This is by far the best update. They could have just told me this, and I would have probably been happy, frankly.
Yeah.
Whisper of Hedrons will no longer increase weapon damage after freezing. It will now increase stability, weapon aim assist, mobility, resilience, and recovery after freezing. Good.
Yeah.
Good. I run Hedrons, and I think that's more beneficial personally, to the way I play at least.
Yeah. But in Crucible, that means you freeze a guy around the corner, you're able to 2-tap with your 120 hand cannon, and you can no longer do that, which is awesome.
Cold Snap Grenade. Seeker no longer tracks targets after initial target acquisition. Arming duration before Seeker spawns, 0.3 to 0.8. Detonation radius versus players has been halved, and it now bounces off walls and detonates on the ground. So it can't chase you in the air.
Yeah.
Which was a big one also. There's a lot here. They address Titan, Hunter, and Warlock. They kind of break down how they were being used. Titan Behemoth, believe it or not, generally has the highest win rate of any subclass in most 6v6 game modes, and is also among the strongest in 3v3. In Trials, for example, only Top Tree Dawnblade has a higher win rate.
That's right, baby.
That fucking blows my mind, especially with how much I hear about the Hunter Stasis.
Well, so here's the problem: is there's like 10-fold more Hunters.
And they do address that. Yeah.
Yeah, but a good Titan with Behemoth, I think Behemoth has, unlike the other two Stasis.
There's
classes,
so much ice.
Well, it has such a high skill gap. The movement that the Behemoth presents is insane, and if you are a very good player, you could take advantage of that to the nth degree.
I would like to note, Glacial Quake is getting a nerf. That's a specific one I want to read out. The only one in this class I'm going to read out. Reduced heavy slam vertical freeze range versus players, which this is the second or third time they've had to nerf that shit. And reduced damage resistance from 50% to 47%. So I have generally found it easier to kill them out of their super as of late, but you got to land again. You got to land those shots. You got to have Vorpal Deadmans or a Vorpal hand cannon or shoddy of some kind to get them out of that super, or you're just not doing it.
Yeah, or even just team shooting. If there's 3 of you trying to take a point.
Oh, team shooting. This goes back to the whole shield bash thing, right? You're gonna die if you rush somebody and you're not an expert in that class.
Yeah.
You're gonna die. If you don't know, like we talk about the movement abilities of that particular class versus other Titans.
Yeah.
And it's night and day. Like this feels like a Hunter class at times with the movement.
Yep. Between the super slide and the fact that you can fly like 35 meters with that melee,
Hunter Revenant, win rate, kills per minute, average efficiency is generally within the top 6 of all subclasses, but the usage rate is incredibly high. In Trials, it has the 5th highest win rate of any subclass, but is used by 36% of Trials players. High usage means players fall victim to abilities more often, multiplying the frustration of being slowed by Withering Blade and Winter Shroud. Yep. Which, I mean, so they talk, this is, again, another nerf that we've gotten to Shurikens. Slow duration versus players from 2.5 to 1.5. Whisper of Durant's extension is from 2 seconds down to 0.5. Damage versus players 65 to 45 after 1 bounce is reduced to 30. Projectile speed 10%. Reduced tracking after bouncing off a wall. This is, I feel like, with the other changes they've made, I think that they're going to revert these Shuriken changes. Maybe not in Season 15, but by Witch Queen. I hope, in a way, I hope they don't. What I would like to see is if you have 2 in the chamber, I'd like for these to apply to the second one.
Maybe it's not getting frozen by the shurikens that is the problem. It's the fact that you have 2 in the chamber. You have a right bumper ability with incredible range that just immediately makes your opponent not be able to kill you.
I'm gonna play some devil's advocate here.
Oh geez, here we go.
Because listen, every other class has a one-hit melee kill. Okay, the hunters are supposed to be a class that play at range. It does not. I think the tracking is absurd on these things. I think the tracking should be. You should have to aim these like you do throwing knife.
Yeah.
There is so much tracking aim on these things, it's insane. And I say as somebody who gets frequently frustrated by it. But I mean, I also play this a lot in PvE, so I'm not really I don't really run it in PvP. I don't like being part of the problem. Instead, I'm the one running Shards of Galanor in your Mayhem matches. I think that's a really good move. And I mean, the other one is Cold Snap grenades. Same things. Shadebinder, there's a lot. Trials, it has 9th highest win rate of all subclasses. They are pulling this data from the weekend of 514, but it doesn't deviate much between weekends. VOG launch shook things up a bit. Shadebinder may not be the most powerful in competitive play. Being frozen by its abilities takes a large emotional toll on the victim. You're damn right it does.
Yep.
Penumbral Blast has been adjusted to require more accuracy versus players in order to turn this ability into more of a skill shot given its powerful effects. Good, because I'm so tired of seeing 3 blasts come, and as soon as I hear that noise, I'm like, well, I'm going to die. Yeah. That's all there is to it. I have managed to dodge it a handful of times, but my timing has to be exactly spot on. And then you have to turn around and hope you can pop them with a couple shots or with heavy beforehand, which good luck having heavy. Usually I end up having to burn my super. Penumbral Blast, though, there's not a lot of changes to this. Really, the Behemoth is the one that got hit hard here.
Yeah,
in addition to the overall abilities for everything.
Yeah, and they already nerfed the shit out of the Warlock Stasis super.
Well,
that was the first
that's why I want to address these 3 things really fast. Penumbral Blast, reduced tracking and proximity detonation size and tracking versus players. Reduces freeze radius and players when impacting the environment from 2.7 meters to 1.5. Ice Flare bolts now only change once when spawned from a player's shatter, and Winter's Wrath strength will ramp down to 0 after 2 seconds of flight. Good. These are all good changes to me for all 3 of these classes. I disagree slightly with how much because the Shurikens got nerfed once already, and I think that they're largely in an okay place in PvP, but I also don't play a lot of Trials. I don't understand the frustrations that a lot of people do with it, because when I've been going in there, I'm encountering a lot of people playing light subclasses right now. But I understand when you the only way you are getting to the lighthouse is by using Stasis.
Yeah, and the biggest
non-blade, as we just found out.
Yeah. The biggest thing with shurikens is, okay, so say you go to challenge a lane, you get hit in the body by a sniper rifle, you say, okay, that's not a good position, I'm going to reposition, heal, and push. You go around a corner, you're safe and in cover, and then you hear that, and just around a corner, that shuriken kills you. And if it doesn't kill you, you're now slowed, and that hunter is going to come around that shotgun with their stompies and be 30 feet in the air with a shotgun.
The biggest change to me that I think they really needed was reducing the tracking after bouncing off of the wall.
Yeah.
In PvE, that's fine because I really rely on that in PvE. Like I was doing it in Vault, I was throwing it off of the confluxes and trying to hit, trying to slow the champion or slow the chickens down.
Well, am I wrong? I believe they mentioned that almost, if not all of these changes are PvE only.
These are all PvP only. I want to make that really clear again. These are all PvP only,
which is awesome.
Which is very good. They finally have gotten it through their heads that you cannot nerf something in PvP and PvE because, I mean, we have the same problem in PvE. Like fucking Spectral Blades is useless.
Yeah.
Arc Supers are useless.
Yeah.
Are you going to be on Tether or are you on Celestial Nighthawk? Those are your 2 options. Stasis has, thank God, given us another path. It may not be the best for boss damage, but like we found out when we did Grandmasters last season, sometimes throwing that ice tornado on, for example, on Brackus Zone, Throwing the Ice Tornado on him slows him down just enough for me to be able to start getting that Divinity Bubble on him and for everybody else to pelt him with Chaos Reaches or with Falling Star or something. And we're nuking these bosses in Nightfalls and endgame content because that Tornado is slowing him and the ads down just enough for us.
Even just Duskfield grenades on a champion.
Yeah,
helps, I mean, so much.
It's huge. I mean, the shurikens. Like, I would love to see a seasonal artifact mod where you throw your shuriken and it can stun an unstoppable.
I'm sure you'll see it eventually. We get it for all the other ones. We got last season. I think it was Stasis abilities stunned overload champions or Stasis grenades.
I think it was Stasis grenades. I can't remember exactly. Yeah. We have one. So we have a Stasis ability this season, which I've actually bought the mod. I just haven't tried it out yet. I just got it last night. Yeah. So I mean, any last thoughts on the Stasis changes before we move on to talking about why we're all here tonight, which is Vault?
No, I just want to say that it's the problem with Stasis is, if you pop a super on me, I feel like, you know what, it doesn't matter what super you're on, unless you're really bad, you were going to kill me anyways. So if a Stasis Hunter wants to jump up and hit me with a ice tornado and kill me, that's cool. But having 3 win buttons on your left and right bumper, in any different engagement with hugely... Oh, wait, I forgot 4 because Hunters can slow you by dodging. So for a Stasis Hunter, that's 4 basically I win buttons, unless you're extremely unlucky,
It's rough. It's definitely rough. I hope that these changes do something.
Yeah.
If they don't after this, I'm close to the point of joining the ranks of, for example, Vanguard has called for this already. He's one of the more reliable guys for PvP builds that I follow.
Good guy.
Yeah, great guy. Love his content, but when he's calling for Stasis to be taken out of the game at this point, out of PvP at least, until it can be completely fixed, that's how you know something is just completely irreparably fucked. Like, you're dangerously close to losing your core PvP audience.
Especially when it's coupled with we haven't had a new Crucible map in 2 years, we have no new modes. Yeah. It's it just compounds.
It's bad. It's real bad. I mean,
are you familiar with Ascendant Nomad? By chance, he's not a big one.
I am.
Yeah. Well, his whole thing is, don't fall into scrub mentality of I'm going to be mad about how the other person killed me and focus on how you can become better. He, after making a career on that mindset, has come out and said, I cannot, in good faith, try to coach people on how to be better at the Crucible when it doesn't matter. I can win this engagement by pressing right bumper or dodging around you. To freeze you.
I agree. And I mean, like, I really, really, really like playing Crucible. I like playing it with friends. I like playing it solo. I'm always down to boot up and play some Control. Like, I often wander into Control or Mayhem, and especially if Momentum is up. You'll find me wandering in there on my own. Other things like Breakthrough, I definitely got to have a team with me. But I don't mind wandering into those. I used to not mind wandering into Iron Banner by myself until last summer. And, the freelance playlist has kind of been a godsend there, but even that's a hit and miss bag. Even I don't like wandering in the Crucible anymore now, especially solo.
That's a shame.
It really is. Like, I was not a big Crucible player in D1. Definitely was not. I played it because that was the only way I could get high-end gear in Iron Banner, at least. That's most of what I played for PvP. And I didn't play a lot of Crucible before you and I started playing together. That's back when it was 4v4 for a long time. Really hated that.
Yeah.
After they made it 6v6, we'd play occasionally. We'd play for Iron Banner, essentially.
Yeah.
But went almost an entire year without playing PvP until we started playing, and I've consistently played since then. This is kind of the first time. Guardian Games was really the first time where I went, I don't think I can PvP anymore. I have sat through a couple patches now. I have endured so much in this game, and I just can't do it anymore. I can't do it, and I really hope that changes. So fingers crossed that I can get back to enjoying the Crucible here, if not this season, early next season.
Yep.
But John, let's move on to the proverbial revolving door of the Vault of Glass. Now, I'm really glad that you're here because originally how I had the panel set up for tonight, Nerd Generalist and Colonel Panic were going to join us, and we were going to have me and Colonel obviously have played it in D1. Nerd has never played it. We were going to have 2 guys who were vets and one who has never touched it. But thankfully, it all worked out. It's going to be a 1v1. Me and Johnny, the OG Vault of Glass versus a newbie. Now, John, having never done Vault, what went through your mind when you loaded into Venus for the first time in D2? Did it bring back those glorious Destiny 1 memories for you?
Absolutely, because while I never had a team to do Vault with, I many a time would hang out by that door on Venus, waiting for someone to load in, trying to open, and I would run up there and help them defend the plates and shoot Vex and emote with them. So that was as far as I had ever gotten into Vault and D1. So to actually be there and get to go inside and get to actually do this raid, I love this raid, Josh. It's good shit.
I'm very excited. This is just... Vault is one of the best gaming memories I've ever had. Tackling that for the first time, I never having seen anything like that in a video game before. We talked about this during our raid rankings last fall, but there's a reason why Vault ranks so very highly on our list, and it is 100% the nostalgia factor. Yeah. It was the first of its kind. I only had a couple clears of Vault in D1, but the memories I have of that are some of the best gaming memories I have. I mean, that's how I found my raid group for Destiny 1. We cleared, we would do Crota every week when it came out. We all took a big break after we beat Vault, but we played Crota almost every week. We did Kingsfall when it came out. They unfortunately did not carry over to our Eyes of Iron or in Destiny 2, but it was just amazing going in there for the first time. I mean, there's so much lore behind the Vault. Like, we're going to have to do a whole special lore corner just on the Vault at some point. And there's so many nods to Destiny's history in there. For one of them is the infamous portal from the Whisper mission.
Yeah.
If you don't know what we're talking about, there's a special portal in the Whisper mission you can get to that's way almost outbound the map, and you have to jump over there to get. There's a collectible over there you got to get. I don't remember what it was for, but you go over there, and there's a portal, and if you look through it, you see a reflection into the jumping puzzle, into the chasm right before the Vault of Glass, and we freaked out, going, "Oh my God, could Vault come to D2?" The next 2 years we speculated about until finally last summer they confirmed Vault was in fact coming to D2 sometime during Beyond Light's year, and we have it now. And I think that this is going to start a trend, not a tradition, but a trend. It has its own special tab right now, the Legends tab. It's the only thing in there. I do strongly think that they're going to move the Prophecy dungeon there eventually. Because how many times have you fucking clicked on that thing when you're trying to go to the tower?
I still don't know why it's on the tower.
I don't. It drives me nuts. They didn't have anywhere else to put it though, and it's listed as Legends in Triumphs.
Yeah.
So conspiracy theory, spinfoil hats coming on. I think it's getting moved over there because I think they're going to give us another reprised raid when Beyond Light ends and we get Witch Queen. I think you're going to get King's Fall. Either in the lead up to it or after. So I have different feelings about Crota. I do think Crota is coming back in some way, shape, or form, but I think King's Fall is far more important to the story that they're going to be telling in the Witch Queen, because Crota or Oryx dying is what sets all this in motion ultimately.
Oh yeah. It was a big deal. I mean,
it's still Crota or excuse me, Oryx. God, it's so easy to get those two mixed up. Oryx is still the most consequential person that we've defeated in a raid, more so than Atheon, more so than Axis, definitely more so than Axis, more so than Riven, more so than Sanctified Mind.
Josh, are you telling me that the Taken King was important to the Destiny universe in and out of game?
Oh yeah, I can't possibly imagine. I mean, hey, it's low key the best raid in the whole franchise. I think King's Fall is coming back. I think so many people expect Crota's End. I could see it coming back as a reprised dungeon down the line. The possibilities are endless now that we have that Legends tab, and we've seen them bring over content and keep it. It's the same storyline as Destiny 1. They didn't change anything in that regard. Same with Fallen Saber and Devil's Lair. So I think that you're going to see a lot more strikes coming in. I personally would like to see Prison of Elders come back as a dungeon.
That'd be fun.
I want the Skolas encounter to be a dungeon instead. You have to go through a couple bosses, but hey, give us loot after each one. I think that could be really cool. But getting back to Vault, opening that gate, there was a night day difference between doing that on Saturday and doing it on Monday.
Josh, no
Tuesday.
joke, that was probably some of the most fun I've had in Destiny all year.
The amount of grown men screaming at the top of their lungs. We're like, oh, okay, we can handle this. This is rough. We can handle this. We can handle this. And then out of nowhere, the Cyclops has not spawned on me yet. I hear a shriek come from the right side plate of Nerd and Colonel Panic going, oh shit, there's a Cyclops. And simultaneously, John and I go, huh? And then our Cyclopses spawn. And we go, oh shit, because they one-banged all of us at once. And so started a cycle. Dude, I felt like I was storming the beaches of Normandy with my fire team. My swords were not helping. My snipers were barely helping. I was just trying to... Wells did not save us. You want to know what ultimately saved us?
What's that, Josh?
On middle plate and on right plate, Stasis saved us. Because I would pop Stasis with my... I couldn't even use my Star Eaters to help. But I would pop Stasis to wipe out ads. Matt would drop a well or a riff for us, and we would pop the Cyclopses real fast and then try and sword anything that somehow didn't get killed by the tornado. And then pray to God that I got my super back before the next wave.
Well, unlike you heathens over there on the left plate, hanging out alone, me and Phil were running double solar. We were running well and bottom tree hammers, and we made it happen.
It was so bad. It was a hilariously bad experience. Then, of course, we go down to the first secret chest. You get a secret chest, a non-encounter chest right after you open up the vault. That's likely to keep people from cheesing it every week.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I'm going to walk in and go get a weapon roll every week. Like, fuck, no, you're not. You're going to go open up that chest and you're going to get something you've gotten before.
Yep.
Go try the oracles. Go try the oracles. We went along the path, found the first pad for the Mythoclast Catalyst, which can't wait to do that quest. Oracles, or excuse me, Confluxes. Confluxes, baby. Largely the same as Destiny 1. Just with the addition of champions and chickens now, instead of minotaurs everywhere.
Champions and chickens, baby.
Dude, I'm not kidding when I say, like, that it wasn't that bad when we did it last night when we got our second clear.
Yeah.
It's still a little hairy at times, especially during that third wave. Again, stasis. I urge you. Stasis and a well. Really helps clear everything out. But that encounter used to be so easy. I used to sit there in the spawn cave over on plate number 3, over on right side. I used to just go sit in the spawn and wait for them with an auto rifle. I just stand there with Atheon's epilogue and just gun into the cave. Or with Suros or something. It was fantastic. Oracles. This is the most controversial change. Is how they've handled the oracles, not just here, but later on in the Atheon fight. We'll get into oracles again. But you now have to hit them in order instead of just hitting them as they light up. It used to be, round 1, you got 1 oracle to hit. Then a wave of enemies. Wave 2, you got 2 oracles to hit, wave of enemies, and so on and so forth until you've done 7 waves.
Yeah.
There are 5 waves of oracles now, and you do have enemies coming out. They're not numerous, but you have to hit all these in order. So your communication needs to be top tier. I personally, God, I'm going to sound like such an asshole for saying this. I really like this change.
Yeah.
Encounter goes so much quicker than it used to.
It doesn't take as long, and it falls in line with the challenge of Destiny 2 raids.
We got it very quickly. We got it very quickly on Saturday. We kind of just assigned one person to cover snipers, and we still do that on like the snipers. Thank God, don't one bang you, not on contest mode. They likely will on master mode. But for right now, it works. We got a system down. I don't mind that encounter. It's really quick. That's quick and easy loot, those first 2 encounters. The Templars were Saturday's attempt fell apart.
Yep. This
is where a lot of really good teams fell apart. And it's because it's just such a brutally difficult encounter. If you do it the way you're supposed to and you keep blocking his teleport, that makes it very challenging. If you don't block his teleport, it arguably makes it more challenging, though, because now you've got puddles of shit everywhere, and you have to try and hit oracles.
Yep. So do you want to do that, or do you want to fight a literal army of void-shielded minotaurs?
So bad. So bad. Even without contest mode, like, it still gets so hairy. I was dying inside the well tonight when I was popping it. It was bad news bears all around. I do not envy the person who has to run around with the relic. Whoever gets selected for that position, Godspeed, my friend. Even though you only have to run around a little bit in there, it's still so bad. You got to figure out where he's going to, cut across the arena, get to it, stand there, hope the Minotaurs don't get you.
Yep.
So you want to have the shit in the back.
And you can challenge most of the ads, but you have to worry about running into one of the shit puddles and having to go cleanse yourself.
And that's the biggest deal is that's the other controversial change is the relic no longer heals you in the Templar encounter. That has been a source of many irate raiders. Many Destiny 1 veterans are still complaining about that today now, almost a week after it launched. I understand it. I was very upset about it on Saturday. I still maintain, had we had it on Saturday, we had that completion.
Yeah.
We had the completion of at least that. That and the Gorgon Maze we likely had done. I don't know if we finished Gatekeepers, but we for sure finished that. We definitely don't finish Atheon on contest mode.
Yeah.
Now, as Fallout Plays describes, he's a big metal punching bag.
Yep.
Which he is. I mean, dude, that guy. So I want to tell you about the LFG I had today, John.
Lay it down.
I went in to go farm some spoils, you know, like I do. I want some more rolls of that new rocket launcher. So went in, started doing that. I want to save some spoils for, you know, prey deaths, get a couple good prey death rolls, get some good slug shoddy rolls, you know, the works, and then start saving up for Witch Queen, baby. But this group was absolutely insistent we did not need a divinity to make the slug shoddy strat work, because they had one guy who had breach and clear on his anarchy. They do not seem to understand that more is in fact better, and it showed. I was like, okay, I will take off my divinity, I will put on slug shoddies. I'd like for the record to show that I should never ever be beating you in DPS. I am not running breach and clear. I do not have auto loading vorpal shoddies, and yet somehow I'm beating you. Oh, and I'm the guy dropping the well. So, that's right. I ran Warlock tonight in a raid, and I did not entirely hate it.
Shocking.
Shocking. Absolutely shocking. More at midnight. But it is just strats like that. We saw this with the Taniks fight. It only works if everybody's playing their part. If you have people that do not have anarchy, that's fine. You can still get through this encounter. They have to have a really powerful super or really good rolls on their shoddies and on their heavy.
Yeah.
For us to all
or
make
at
it
least
through
snipers. Vorpal snipers would work. You know.
I had a hunter in the group who she did not have Celestial Nighthawk. She did not know what to run. So first off, that's a bad sign. You should never be in a raid and not know what you're running. Decided to run Stasis. Did not have lasting impression rockets. Wanted to run Xenophage. Did not want to run slug shoddies. And it's the absolute worst thing that I've ever encountered. It was bad. It took us about an hour and a half to do 4 runs of the Templar between swapping characters and everything else. It was at that point it's not a farm. You pointed out it would be quicker for me just to go run the whole raid.
Yeah, at that point
it was real bad. But it also made me really thankful for the group that we had on our day 1 attempt, and that we've done 2 clears with now.
Yeah.
That's as far as I'm concerned, that's my day 1 team going forward. But everyone had a role to play in every single encounter, and they all knew what their role was. For instance, in Confluxes, we had 2 solid teams on the left and on the right. You know, you and Phil, Colonel and Nerd, and then Matt and I took middle on both on plates and there, so we could divert off to support if we needed to. And that largely works. I mean, like, leave your veterans in the middle who have, you know, done Vault 1.5 billion times. You know, or at least have done it several times in D1, you know, who know where all the spawns are coming from, kind of know the strats, et cetera, et cetera. I like the Templar encounter. I don't think it's bad now that we know how to do it. I think it's actually a great encounter. I don't mind that the relic can't cleanse you. It makes you play smarter.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, oh, I shield bash something, come cleanse me, or oh, I ran up because I needed a melee bounty done. Like, get that bullshit out of here.
My only problem with it is that it's inconsistent once you get to Atheon, that now you're cleansing stuff with the shield.
Oh, no. So I actually don't have a huge problem with that, because my thing with that becomes builds on the mechanic like everything else in these raids do.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me. Because so many of us expected the cleanse mechanic anyway. So I mean, for new players, yeah, it's going to throw you off. But hey, that's part of learning the final boss. I mean, look at Taniks. Look at things change in Taniks, for example. Operator is doing something completely different in Taniks.
A little bit.
So I don't have a huge problem with that. The Gorgon Maze, largely the exact same thing. Exact same as you remember. It's just as shitty. It's a little bit better lit this time. I don't have to crank the brightness up on my new TV. Thank God I don't want the image of the Gorgon Maze burned into my OLED.
Was it a little dark in D1?
A little dark in D1, yeah. And I'm notorious for turning up the brightness settings on my games. So thankfully, this one's not nearly as bright. Secret chest is locked behind 3 cubes, though. Haven't been able to hit that yet just because the Gorgon Maze is still
we'll get in there.
A fucking nightmare. Yeah, not worried about it. I'm hitting that chest approximately one time ever. Whoever's not with me, I'm not doing it again. Because it's just such a pain to get to.
Once we figure out how to DPS those oracles, it'll be no problem.
Oh my God. What's that? Gatekeepers. So gatekeepers, drastically easier than it's meant to be, and I'm sure that a patch for this is coming in the next week or two for the bundles.
I hope it is.
So I think you can. I think this encounter actually is a lot easier than people give it credit for, frankly. But you have to be willing to swap people out. Is the problem?
Yeah.
Your relic bearers have to be prepared to be on the move constantly. And that's something that our group a couple nights ago could not grasp when they were trying to run the relic in there before we found out about the Prometheus lens. If you don't know, Prometheus lens absolutely shreds those shields. Or you can go up and use Colony as a slug shotgun.
All right, who had Colony or Prometheus lens on their day 1 raid strat bingo card?
Nobody. It wasn't even on the card. For once, it was not Telesto. God, that's got to be like the first thing Bungie tests for now. Is Telesto going to break something?
And that's why Telesto didn't work that, because they tested with Telesto, and they're like, we're making sure this shit don't work.
I guarantee you something with that energy accelerator was probably nuking those shields.
Yeah.
I guarantee you.
Well, and it was making Telesto do like 4 times as much damage. So
I mean, honestly, who wouldn't like to Telesto the Templar to death, right? Gatekeepers, I think, is a perfectly fine encounter. For those of you who don't know, you have past Venus and future Venus. We call them Venus and Mars, respectively. Because jungle and desert, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
It's the exact same arena as the boss arena, just a tiny bit smaller. I still think this is just one of the coolest things. This was in the very first raid of Destiny. Like, they came up with this. This is Luke Smith was the architect of the Vault of Glass. It's commonly said, and this is exactly why he got the gig to be the director of Taken King and then ultimately the franchise director. This is why he got it. Say what you want to about Luke, about how he's managed the franchise the last couple of years. Say what you want to about Shadowkeep, which was the last real major, well, Beyond Light also, that were kind of under his and Mark Noseworthy's supervision before handing it off to Joe and Justin. But goddamn, Vault of Glass, just phenomenal work on the Gatekeepers encounter and then later on Atheon.
And see, I didn't realize this during Season of Dawn when we were doing the Corridors of Time. I thought it was so clever how we had like super future looking Vex with their gold and white paint jobs, and then super old school Vex with their weird like round heads and muted colors. And I had no idea that came from Vault. That's crazy that was 7 years ago. Yeah, it's just such a good raid.
Yeah. The changes in Atheon, however, have soured me a little bit on Vault overall for D2. Not enough to like bump it down in my rankings or anything, but I get what they were going for here. They definitely wanted to be more of a challenge, but I think they really needed to at one point pick: do you want to do the oracles in order, or do you want there to be a detain bubble? Because that detain bubble can fuck an entire run, and I don't think that's right. I think it should only detain that person. I don't think it should detain everybody around them. I understand like the logistics of that don't really work, but the fact that that can shut down an entire team and screw them out of the entire encounter, I think is a little bit unforgiving.
Yeah. God, how did it work in Eater of Worlds? Wouldn't it like pick you up and start carrying you away?
Yes, which I'm glad they didn't do that again, but I do think it should work like the detain in the Templar encounter.
Yeah.
Like it will kill you in 10 seconds if somebody doesn't shoot you out. And you're going to notice that you're not getting that person's damage when you have Time's Vengeance. But the fact that you have to have somebody scream, I'm going to be detained, and jump away and send the relic guy to go get them and pray to God they land before they get detained.
Yeah.
It's just bad all around. The oracles are bad enough. I mean, I wouldn't have even minded the oracles, but then they inverted them on top of that. It's just, I feel like Atheon has too many changes. It's not the Atheon I remember.
Yeah. How did it play in D1?
So in D1, you would have oracles appear, but the oracles would, to my recollection, the oracles would only appear, and please feel free to write in towercasual@gmail.com if I'm wrong, yell at me on Twitter or whatever. My recollection, though, from 6 years ago, is that you went into Mars or Venus. That's where you're teleported. You picked up the relic. You were basically fighting your way to the portal. And you were shooting the oracles along the way. And when you hit the last oracle, the gate needed to be open, and you ran out straight into Time's Vengeance. You went to DPS Island, and that's where you did it. There was no detain. There was no oracles in order bullshit.
Weren't the oracles a lot harder to kill, though? I remember seeing clips of people golden gunning.
Insanely difficult to kill in D1. So I am happier that because I mean, dude, if you made them just as hard to kill now, with having to do it in order, it would be literally impossible to do for, I think, at least.
Everyone would have to run Xenophage just to do
it. They would have already had to have nerfed it by now. A hotfix would have had to roll out like 2 days after World's First. And that's never good if you have to hotfix your raid that quickly.
Yeah. I just remember seeing Hunter's golden gunning oracles back in the day. So.
That's not even an exaggeration. I fortunately, when I got most of my vault clears, I did not have to go, because that's when you could still select who went. When I did do it during year 3, though, I had to go, and that was an experience for me. I much prefer going now, ironically, because I don't shoot oracles. I don't listen to the order because I get really confused. So I just pop the shield for everybody. I pop the shield. I clear all the supplicants. I open your portal for you.
Which I love, because that means that I still get the DPS.
Right, so. And that kind of goes back to my whole thing of, this is something I was talking about with Nerd, and I was really hoping you would be on the next week to talk about it, but it goes back to the philosophy of Destiny 2 raids, if you think about it, that every single person has a role to play. It's not just like, oh, we've got 4 people on ad clear, and 2 people are going to do the mechanics, like in King's Fall. A lot of that happened in King's Fall. Original Vault of Glass, that happened. Like, everyone has a role to play. Like, you've got to take plates, you've got to defend confluxes, you've got to shoot the oracles in order. Like, everybody gets assigned to an oracle now. You know, one person has to shoot 2. What else? Like gatekeepers. Everybody's got a role playing gatekeeper. You're a defender or whatever, and you know it's a whole thing. I don't know. It's not as bad as people like to make it out to be. That's probably my biggest takeaway. Gatekeepers is going to get harder once you don't have that cheese anymore. It's absolutely going to get more difficult.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I mean, we have enough tools now, like Anarchy especially. You've got enough tools now between that, your Stasis Seekers, whatever you want. You can chuck Nova bombs all day. It's fine. Atheon is my biggest gripe by far, though. I'm also a little bit bummed that Vex Mythoclast wasn't a quest, especially because it's not like, as of right now, like obviously further testing needs to be done. A lot of prominent players do not have it yet.
Yep. 19 runs of Deepstone before I got eyes.
Yeah. Well, you and I got it right around the same time, actually.
I think we got it on the same run.
You and me got it on the same run. Matt got it the run after.
Yeah. That was a wild raid. I wish I would have recorded that, because you and I both getting it on the same run. The amount of screaming.
Oh my god, dude!
Like
one of my great raiding memories. I was winding down on Deepstone. I'd like to note though, 21 Deepstone clears, and I still don't have a fucking commemoration. But that's fine. Budding friendship with commemoration ended.
Was the raid chest all along? Yeah.
No. Friendship with oh God, what's the Vogue machine gun? I'm blanking on the name right now. I do this too much. Corrective measure. Friendship with corrective measure started, baby. Because I got that buddy. I got that thing with surplus and thresh. Also, I got one with rewind rounds and one for all. So
I got one with rewind and firefly,
you,
which is funny on a void weapon, and it's cool and all. But I do have a beef with this gun because I got 4 drops of the LMG last night.
that's how I feel about Vision. I was so excited when Vision was my first drop. I was like, oh my God, yes, I got one of my 3 favorite legendaries from Destiny 1 right away. It was the first drop I got in this raid. And I have gotten it 6 times since. I got it out of every single hidden chest on both runs. I am so tired of that and the boots in Vault already. I would love to get the other 2 pieces of armor at some point. Can I get the complete Vault of Glass armor set on my hunter before I get the seasonal cloak?
No Jon Snow cloak for you.
Yeah, the night is in fact dark and full of terrors. I unfortunately can't experience any of it.
It's all right, Josh. This is just practice for the Master Raid. We can get those time lost weapons, baby. I'm so in on this.
I want to see what Master Mode looks like before I commit to anything right now.
I imagine it's contest mode plus some additional qualifiers to get through each.
God, I'm so terrified.
But baby, I'm ready for it. Oh my God, give me an adept Fatebringer. Are you kidding me? I'll do whatever I have to do for that. Come on.
Right. So John, I want to ask you kind of to wrap up. Thoughts on a first timer in Vault.
I thought it was awesome. I know people who did it originally have their own opinions on what they changed. For me, I felt like this kind of nailed that perfect balance of, at least in contest mode, combat difficulty and mechanics. As much as we want to make fun of the people complaining that Deepstone Crypt was too easy, I kind of get where they're coming from, where all of the enemies, like, ignore the mechanics you need to fulfill in Deepstone. The enemies are laughably. You could sit there, like, trying to kill yourself in Deepstone. They can sit there and shoot you for a long time before you die, So I feel like Vogue kind of nailed that. Not only are you trying to nail these in mechanics and listen for oracle callouts, but you're also worried about supplicants, and you're worried about minotaurs, and you're worried about Phaedras, and the combat difficulty is kind of just as present as the raid mechanics, and the loot is good, and it's I think they did a good job bringing it up to D2.
It's rewarding in the way that Deepstone was too. Like Deepstone, don't get me wrong, Deepstone's pretty easy now, and I feel like this raid is very easy, even without the cheese for gatekeepers. I still think like that will honestly be more difficult than Atheon to me. To an extent. Obviously, like the longer Atheon goes on, the more you gotta like perfectly hit those oracle callouts. It's one of the very few raids where I think everybody has to learn how to do that. Has to learn how to read it both out there and in there. And your callout system makes all the difference. Like I see people going L2, R2, and like shit like that. Like, nah, dude, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like that's the absolute easiest that we've learned how to do it.
I'm glad we landed on that. It worked.
I am too. It's so much easier. But this raid, the loot feels rewarding like it did in Deepstone. Deepstone, I feel like, with the exception of the hand cannon, hilariously, I think all the loot is viable out of that raid. Heritage definitely has a place in the meta.
I'd make an argument for posterity as well, but we know I'm
I want to say you can absolutely make a case for it, but I think in the case of the other weapons, you can legitimately make a case that they're among the absolute best of their kind. And I don't even consider this. Fuck the sword. I
forget about it. What is it called? Bequest?
I try to forget about it. I've gotten it a billion times.
I think we have both said the same thing of, man, Falling Guillotine should have been the Deepstone Crypt sword instead of Bequest. Because Bequest feels so dull and useless in the world of the awesome. Even the old the D2 year 1 class swords are better than Bequest.
So I am really happy those swords have been brought back and given new relevance.
Me too.
Because Fallen Guillotine, like, it's just had, and I mean, for hunters, I would argue it still has a monopoly. Quick Fang is fine for boosting your speed. I don't think Quick Fang is overall a great sword, but I digress. I think this is a perfect example. This Devil Slayer and Fallen Saber are perfect ways of how you can bring forth that Destiny 1 content. And you can still make it challenging. For instance, throwing in the champions on those, like, champions are artificial modifiers, but I mean, for instance, dropping mechs into the middle of Fallen or into a Devil Slayer makes that actually kind of challenging on higher difficulties.
Shoulder to shoulder with champions with the tank boss shooting at you. Oh man, that's such a fun encounter. And
dude, you want to talk about Saving Private Ryan? That's storming Omaha Beach. I mean, Fallen Saber is it's Fallen Saber, right? But Vault is updated in a way, and again, like, I agree with just about every change they made to it, except I think for Atheon they needed to pick. Did they want to do the oracles that way, or did they want to do the Detain? But, like, I didn't even have a problem with the oracles. I wouldn't have a problem with calling out the oracles if they were in the exact same order they were. I think flipping them was a bit too much.
Bungie likes to fuck around, man.
Bungie does like to fuck around. I think they fucked around just a little bit too much with Atheon. And, like, for us, like, we've gone through what you and I have probably done about 30 plus raids together at this point.
Yeah.
I've done every single raid just about I've ever done. I've done with Matt. Like, we've raided with Nerd and Colonel Panic probably, at least I have, upwards of 20, 30 times now.
Phil was with us for the entire.
Yeah, I've done Phil all the stuff last summer. I've done tons of Leviathan with him. I've done a couple Deep Stones now and this, and it's like, for a less coordinated team though who does not know how each other plays, I think that encounter in particular is going to be very rough. I think the Templar is going to still screw with a lot of LFGs that don't know double slug shotty strats, or even Vorpal snipers, like.
You know what's funny?
Divinity keeps being a must-have for these bosses.
Divinity.
Thank God.
When I ran with that PC group, about half the team hadn't done it yet, and the other half hadn't played together in a while. Honestly, the Oracle encounter pre-Templar took the longest.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're not the only person I've heard say that. I've heard a lot of people say that.
For uncoordinated teams of not friends, I feel like that's going to be.
And that just blows my mind. I don't understand that.
Yeah. No, we spent as much time on that encounter as we did with every other part of the raid.
That is just, man, I don't know what to say.
But hey, shout out to our day one raid team, because, man, what an excellent group of dudes, and we got there.
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic.
If only our only hunter had been pulling his weight a little more, we probably would have got there on Sunday. But for audio listeners, he just flipped me off on camera.
I mean, y'all keep talking all this shit. I'll start leaving my fun toys at home. But that is going to do it for our Vault talk. We do have a little bit of Lore Corner to get to real quickly. This episode's actually coming in shorter than I thought it was going to. We've got two pieces from Beneath the Endless Night. Is the seasonal lore book. We don't usually read the seasonal lore. We definitely didn't read it last season. We really didn't read much of Season of the Hunts either, but I think the pieces they're giving us in this book are so important to understand the motivations of some characters. We don't really get fleshed out too often.
Yeah.
I think it's really critical, and I think it's going to be really important for understanding the story farther on. You're gonna see some seeds that are going to be planted in these chapters that kind of give us a hint to, I mean, where this is all inevitably going. John and I'll talk about that at the end here, but the first one is called Gifts from the Shore. Though the metal crate they were wearing likely weighed more than they did, two Elixni gave Saint 14 a wide berth on their way to the Elixni Quarter. You see how they distrust, Saint grumbled. Amanda Holiday scanned the crate into her datapad. The unexpected shipment of emergency supplies from the tangled shore nearly offloaded. Don't be such a sourpuss, she said lightly. Mixing with new folks good for the soul. I mix, objected Saint, but the fallen. They do not enjoy my company, and I feel the same for them. Maybe that's why Ikora picked you for this, Amanda said. Though Saint was fully helmeted, she could swear he rolled his eyes. 2 more Elixni came bearing another crate. One noticed Saint too late and stumbled, dropping the crate. Its security locks popped as it crashed to the ground. A young Elixni, wearing House of Light colors and a bright orange and blue Vanguard lanyard, scampered over in distress. Saint sighed. It's fine, he said to the Elixni. Spider probably sends more surplus from the old House of Dusk. Knowing you carry supplies from our enemies is a great joke to him. He dragged the crate out of the walkway with one hand and knelt to repair the locks. As Amanda scanned the damaged crate, the young Elixni came closer. He eyed Saint warily and then held up a sheaf of paper like a shield. Manifest, he said haltingly. Thank you, Amanda said with unforced brightness. She tapped her datapad. I've got it digitally. You got it digitally, echoed the Elixni. He fidgeted for a moment, then proudly held up the badge on his lanyard, which read temporary. Amanda smiled. What have you got there? Authorization for unloading of supplies from Tangled Shore. Of supplies sent from Spider, he said. He leaned in slowly, looking carefully at Saint and Amanda. My gentlemen, he added slyly. Amanda snorted so abruptly that Saint fumbled with a lock, crushing it in his hand. Saint looked up. Can you two not be quiet? Come on now, Amanda admonished Saint lightly. I don't hear you practicing your Elixni, and this fellow is doing his best to bridge the gap. Amanda turned to the Elixni. This ain't exactly right, but you speak our language pretty well, she said. Thank you, answered the Elixni, clearly eager for conversation. Do all humans serve Spider-Kel? Serve Spider, Amanda spat. Spider's nothing but and the 5 spirited words that followed were replete with hard consonants. The Elixni froze, wary of her tone while not understanding her words. Amanda caught herself and took a breath, which is our way of saying he's a kind and generous individual, she said to the Elixni, who nodded along with her. This lock has been ruined by distractions, Saint said as he rose to his feet. He removed the lid and looked inside, then lifted a loose coil of rubbery tubes. Servitor plugs, filters, ether circulators. The Titan made a confused noise. Something wrong, Amanda asked. No, not at all, mumbled Saint as he picked up a small golden cylinder trailing braided sapphire cords. This rebreather alone is worth more than my ship. Amanda moved towards Saint and looked for herself. She recognized a few survival items. Condensed prefab ceramic plating, vapor distillers, generator couplings. But amongst the tubes and filters were otherworldly treasures. A nanomesh sphere filled with thick pink liquid. A chrome conduit splitter with entropic plating. A glimmering opal sparkling in a nest of delicate lavender sponges. The hell is Spider playing at? Amanda said to herself. She called out to the Elixni. Are they all like this? Yes, each one is very full of delights from our culture, from our home. We are very thanks. He cocked his head and clicked. Thankful? Amanda nodded. Let me see that manifest, she said, taking the papers from the Elixni. He nodded and rejoined the other workers. They will still need many of our resources to stay here, Saint said as he carefully resealed the crate. This will make things easier. I'm surprised Spider is so generous, even to his own people. Amanda frowned at the manifest. This doesn't make sense, she said. There's a note at the top. Don't know what half this stuff is, but it's got to be good if Spider had it. It's all written by hand, and there aren't values for anything on here. Saint looked at the papers over Amanda's shoulder. The crates came from Spider's storehouse, he said. If he did not send them, who did? Look at this listing, Amanda continued. This item says best osmosis filters hidden in his bottom drawer. This item is just a row of question marks. Here's one listed as a clock thing. This line says noisy cube. Smells bad, but everyone likes it. And what's this signature? Amanda squinted at the shape scrawled at the bottom of the form. It's a ship, she guessed, handing the paper to Saint. The Titan turned his head as he looked at the drawing. Aha, he cried, slapping the paper with the back of his hand. Look, it's a bird. Amanda looked again at the uneven charcoal lines and could just make out a wobbly black bird. She let out a long breath and shook her head. Awful artist, she said, but I guess he's an all right guy. And suddenly she was smiling. This is a really cool piece. I really like that we're getting a lot of lore telling us about daily Elixni life. Not just in the city, but I mean, like in general, like what do they still value from their culture, from the collapse of their homeworld? We know that Varys is one of the very last people still alive from that culture who saw the collapse. He's one of the few still remaining. Obviously, he's been tortured to no end by people like Skolas and Aramis. And now, he's trying to carry on this culture, but so is Mithrax. Mithrax is very much trying to, even though he's aligned with us. Mithrax is the prophesized Kel of Kels. He is at this point. Like he is the one that so many have sought to claim that title of, and he kind of stumbled into it backwards. So to see the Elixni making an effort to learn English is really hilarious to me. I really like that he calls Amanda and Saint my gentleman. That's pretty great. But I think the bigger... Oh, go ahead.
Josh, you reading that piece just connected another piece, and I don't want to spoil future lore corners, but I just now realized why a certain Fallen gets murdered in a different different piece, because Amanda just told him, oh, that means he's a... What was the line Amanda told him? Oh, that means he's a kind gentleman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything kind of weaves together this season. We are going to get to those eventually. What I love most here, though, I think, is, aside from all that, like, all that's good fun, is that we're getting Spider drawn back into the plot line because of Crow. And we all knew this was going to happen. But Crow is stealing stuff, and that's going to catch up with him eventually. We're going to have to kill Spider at some point.
You think so?
I imagine he's going to be in a big-ass hover chair at some point.
He's going to be in a Taniks fucking giant servitor body.
Oh my god, dude. I swear to God, he's going to be like riding shotgun to Taniks the next time he comes back. Him and his fucking brother are both going to be riding around.
I'm ready for Taken Taniks.
Taken. Oh god, don't give them ideas. Luke Smith, I know you're listening, baby. Don't copy that one. The next one is called Conspirators. This is the one I'm really excited for. We're going to hear a few characters speak that we don't normally hear a lot from. They've largely been out of the story, and we've never quite been able to figure out why. But this kind of solidifies that for us. So, Arik Jal narrowed his eyes with impatience as Dead Orbit's head of logistics struggled to satisfactorily account for the faction supply caches. The pair had been wandering around the massive hangar for an hour while an enormous ship was being loaded in the background. Jalal, I guess that's how you pronounce it, had seen the celestial disappearances and the encroachment of the Black Fleet as clear signs Dead Orbit's final exodus must soon begin. He had ordered a redoubling of departure preparations, but found the faction's rank and file struggling to keep pace. Jalal had cut off his subordinate's bumbling presentation. This is insufficient. Earth will soon be behind us, and Dead Orbit will have to survive on the supplies that we provide. His mild tone and half-lidded gaze underscored the gravity of his words. Supplies that you are in charge of tracking. You do understand that, don't you? A furious blush spread across the administrator's face. He bowed his head and scuttled away as Jal crooked his head in annoyance. Behind him, a raspy voice floated up from the maze of towering crates. Leaving us so soon, Jalal. He turned to find Lakshmi II and Executor Hideo. The future war cult leader stood formally, hands clasped before her, while the head of New Monarchy browsed the shipping crates with casual interest. This is an impressive collection. I had no idea Dead Orbit was so well founded. Hideo gestured broadly to the crates. Jalal shrugged. It's a life's work, Hideo. Everything we'll need to reseed the human species elsewhere. You should join us. We're fine where we are, thank you, Lakshmi interjected. As a matter of fact, that's why we've come. Jalal bowed his head and gestured toward the hangar exit. The trio assembled outside. Hideo and I are concerned about the current Vanguard leadership, Lakshmi began carefully. Jalal allowed himself a mirthless chuckle. Yes, I've heard your open editorials. You're becoming quite the demagogue. I never knew you held such strong feelings about the Fallen. It's kind of a nod to how literally none of this has ever come up before.
Yeah.
If it's incitement to speak the truth, then so be it, Lakshmi fired back sharper than intended. The Fallen have been a useful catalyst, but that doesn't mean we are wrong. Perhaps not about the Vanguard, Jalal replied. But the cult is hemorrhaging members, and I doubt it's your best and brightest remaining. Those who wish to leave are free to do so, Lakshmi said with a pointed glare towards the Dead Orbit ship. We'll be stronger without them. Zavala and Ikora have been ineffective since the speaker died, Hideo cut in. The disappearance of the planets caught them unprepared. They're allowing Guardians to use darkness, and now they've cut a deal with the Cabal? It's just too much. We must have leadership whose point of view is more closely aligned to that of the people, Lakshmi said. And what do you propose exactly? Jalal stopped the trio at the corner of a broad thoroughfare, where the rumble of cargo movers master conversation. Saladin was our first choice, Hideo added with an ill-concealed smirk, but he's not as cutthroat as he seems. It appears the Iron Lord has a soft spot for Commander Zavala. Lakshmi gave Hideo a look, as though he had revealed too much. We are now considering Saint 14, she said, pointedly bringing the conversation back to the present. Jalal raised an eyebrow. Who else is committed to your little coup? We have somebody in a position of influence, someone who can ensure an orderly transfer of power, Lakshmi answered. That person would have to be very clever indeed, Jalal said gravely. For your sake, Ikora Ray is not a target to miss. The moment stretched as Jalal measured the situation. He had long considered what a change of leadership might mean for Dead Orbit, for the resettlement and survival of the human species, and as always, the allure of personal power, a position of eminence in a dying society, was a constant temptation.
God damn.
So I just want to say, first off, Dead Orbit, best faction. We're not committing a space coup with space Nazis and space Trump.
Okay. I just want to say I've been supporting Future War Cult for 6.5 years. It was not until like last Tuesday that they showed up to be
It wasn't until last Tuesday they got revealed to be space Nazis.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel,
God
John?
Damn it.
You're a member of the Space Nazi Party.
That was supposed to be New Monarchy. That's why everyone hated them, right? Like.
Oh yeah, no. New Monarchy is Space Mussolini. They're the ones who like to think that they're in charge, but they're really not. They're really just the lackeys. It's bad all around.
What Cade would fill.
Who would have ever thought that Space My Chemical Romance would be the better option here? Honestly.
Josh, correct me if I'm wrong. Did Cade not have a special relationship with Lakshmi or whatever her fucking name?
Oh, I'm sure he did, but she's not really honoring his memory now, is he? Cade was definitely a space Lothario, okay? You know him and Petra had a little something going on.
No, Sarah, that was Shax over there in the Dreaming City laying out.
Shax went for the queen. He just let Petra watch. Hey, the helmet stayed on, baby, okay?
But if I remember correctly, there was some lore that tied Cade and is it Lakshmi? I'm terrible.
I imagine so, because in the early days of the game, we had so little exos.
Yeah.
I mean, really, we still don't. I mean, we have, who's still alive? Lakshmi, Banshee.
No, Banshee is actually just Clovis, so he
fucking Elsie. Two-thirds of them are Brave family members, okay?
Saint, you know.
Anyways,
yeah.
My point remains. There's not a lot of robot dong going around. Okay, you got to make do with what you got.
Yeah, I get what they're doing here, and I'm very, very curious where this is going to lead.
I'm surprised they come out and flat out say that Jalal straight up calls it a coup.
Yeah, which is supposed to be like the Dead Orbits thing. That's why I always made fun of the Dead Orbit, because they're the wild conspiracy theorists of the bunch. Yeah,
they're the conspiracy theorists, but at the same time, like they were the conspiracy theorists in D1, but in D2, like in the lore that we got in Faction Wars, they are preparing for an exodus of the human race. My long-running theory was that when the city gets destroyed, Dead Orbit is going to be who saves everyone.
Yeah,
and that we're going to go to space. That's when we're going to get, the hub, the helm is going to be up there now. Like, of course, I'm amending my original theory. The helm's going to be there. I always envisioned, like, the Leviathan being around, repurposing the Dreadnought, things like that.
Have a fleet.
To be clear, I still think that something like that is happening before we end the Light and Dark saga. When we go to the new galaxy.
Leave the solar system.
We've talked about this before. Like, Drifter is likely going to be the one who goes with us.
Yeah.
That Drifter
and
potentially Elsie
Gambit across the universe. Let's go.
Oh, God. Hey kids, it's your old pal Drifter here. I heard y'all liked banking boats. Bank those ships. It's gonna be something ridiculous like that. And I like that they openly acknowledged that they wanted Saladin, because this ties back to what we talked about a couple weeks ago. Corey and I read the lore from one of the new weapons. I believe it was from the new Vanguard breach loader, where Saladin is trying to work up the courage to go talk to Zavala. Yeah. And Osiris talks him out of it.
Yep.
Osiris basically tells him it would embarrass Zavala. Reading between the lines, it's pretty clear who they're talking about here, who's in a position of influence.
Yeah.
It's Osiris. There's no way around it, which makes me even more curious as to
even without his light, Osiris is still the one you don't fuck around with.
So I want to pose something to you. I want to pose a theory to you. Before Beyond Light came out, we were all talking about the lore, and we had the lore where Osiris was going. He went out. It was between Season of the Worthy and Season of Arrivals. He encountered one of the pyramid ships out there, and Anna encountered the other.
Yeah.
Anna got the fuck out of there. Osiris, on the other hand, decided to get off the ship and explore. And when he came back, it was noted by Sagira that he was different. And then he goes on this wild goose chase to all the planets that have disappeared, and he goes to the Dreadnought, to Cade's old beachhead that he had as established. And then that leads him to the moon. And when he goes to the moon, that's when he is saved by Crow, because Sagira has been destroyed and this and that. He's about to be killed by the High Supplicant of Xivu Arath. What if he has been brainwashed and mind controlled by Sabbath to influence events in the state? Because you have to think about it this way. She's been monitoring us and events in the tower for years now. For years. Thanks to that fucking Ahamkara skull above Shaxx. We know for a fact from the Traveler's Chosen lore that she's done that, and she's been subtly trying to change people's feelings in the tower. Specifically, she's been after Zavala this entire time. So, who better than to try and sow distrust among the tower and in Zavala, Zavala is very clearly the leader of humanity right now. With no speaker, it's Zavala. Zavala, he is the figurehead of the entire human race, despite being an Unwoken. He is the figurehead of humanity. He is the leader of what's left. Who better than to have to manipulate and destroy the Trustin than Commander Zavala? And if that's working, and they have Osiris as an ally, her plan is working. The consensus is failing. It was a failed thing long before the speaker's death. It's doubly so now.
I'm going to shut this down for one reason. Osiris is probably the most stubborn fictional character across any medium that I can think of. I do not see Osiris, especially after losing Sagira. I feel like Osiris is one of those people that, were he on the brink of I can survive or I can be corrupted, I'm gonna fucking I'm gonna fall on my own sword to make sure that doesn't happen. You know, I just don't see Osiris. Not that Savathun isn't tricky enough to make it work. I don't know. I love Osiris. I have so much respect for that old fucking crotchety bastard.
So my other question is, the other thing I want to pose to you, because Osiris is clearly at the middle of this season's mystery.
Yeah.
What if that wasn't I've kicked this around before. What if that wasn't actually Osiris that came back? Savathun is the god of trickery. That's her whole thing. Her whole thing is cunning and deceit. That's how she practically killed Oryx by doing that. And Xivu Arath, the siblings have been warring for millennia by the time the Traveler came to humanity. Yeah. I mean,
she killed Oryx, didn't she?
They all killed each other multiple times.
Yeah.
You know, but she's the one she sent Kira into his Ascendant realm to try and kill him and everything else. Like, she wanted him to take her, and like that's Kira's the whole thing, powering the murder battery and the Dreaming City and things like that. Like, Savathun's been behind subtly almost everything that's happened since just before Forsaken. She has been engineering almost everything. She's behind the events of Forsaken ultimately because she takes Riven, who corrupts Uldren. She's behind the Scarlet Keep, which she endorsed Hashladun doing that to draw the Vanguard's attention away from her. And
she tried to stop the events of Beyond Light.
She tried to stop the events of Beyond Light. She tried to stop us from communing with the pyramids and Arrivals. And she has now openly declared herself. Her and Xivu Arath are here. They have declared themselves. It's a matter of time. The Vanguard, of course, knows like, oh, it's a matter of time. Well, we know what's going to happen in like roughly 8 months. So y'all better get preparing. And you better give me some better exotics. But all that to be said, I think that this is going to be one of the more fascinating pages that I think we're going to keep returning to time and time again this season. There's a line in the sand being drawn between the Vanguard and the other members of the Consensus, and then you've got kind of surprisingly Dead Orbit kind of being like, we're going to sit on the sidelines and see how this plays out. We're going to play both sides of this.
Yeah.
That's how this reads to me. Is Jalal? He has his plan. He's leaving no matter who wins this. But he, as he notes, the temptation of power in the city is sometimes too great to refuse.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a theme that keeps coming back this season.
I mean, it's like King's Landing, right? You know, like it's
really turning into a Game of Thrones situation. I mean, every main character that we have is coming back into the fold now. Curiously, with the exception of Shax. And I noted this last, it's kind of deviating away from Lore Corner. It's kind of a general observation. I noted this a week or two ago where I truly think that Shax is the next character that gets recast.
Which is going to be so sad because I feel like out of all of their Shax's voice.
Shax and Zavala Zavala, and I would argue Nathan Fillion are the iconic voices of this franchise.
Yeah. And unlike Nathan and Lance, thank you. You hear Shax's voice every 2 seconds in the Crucible. You know, like he's so ingrained.
I imagine they would keep that, but Lenny James is very busy. Let's be honest. When they cast him in Destiny, he was only guest starring on The Walking Dead. He hadn't become a full cast member yet. Became a full cast member right around the time Destiny launched.
Yeah.
And since then was a main cast member on that, is now a main cast member on The Walking Dead, on Fear the Walking Dead, is like running his own show, is writing for shows, acting in shows and movies. He's a very busy guy. I mean, Lance is busy too, but Lance also, he plays the game.
He loves the game.
He participates in all the fan bullshit. Like, he loves it so much, and I'm glad they finally embraced that. And we're like, fuck it, if we're gonna pay just a couple of voice actors, we're gonna pay him like there's no tomorrow.
Destiny was born out of that era where every big AAA game needed a Hollywood actor in it to try to.
Well, when they were all cast, you got to remember they were still on the Activision timeline budget, and so they were likely told, "You must do this." I mean, I'm never going to say Gina Torres is bad as Ikora, but
she was great.
Gina's great, but heavily underused. I mean, when's the last time we really got significant dialogue from her? Forsaken.
Yeah.
We have very little in Shadowkeep.
Lore-wise, the Warlocks are supposed to be the ones unsolving all these. That's why Osiris, I feel like, has kind of been pushed into the limelight of like, this is what Warlocks are supposed to do, right?
Right. And it's like
tell hunters where to look and where Titans need to punch. The Warlocks.
You saw characters that weren't voiced by these big name actors. I mean, we saw the recast of Anna Bray, from Jamie Chung to the new actress that we have, and we saw the narrative focus shift to. Being told through Eris, through Drifter, through Crow, Spider, even Anna, for the Fragment quests, and I forget whoever Elsie's voice actress is, but through all of them, and it's like, oh my god, and then you have Zavala narrating everything in the tower, like.
He's been the only consistent person we've had season to season is Zavala,
Right, and I mean now we're starting to get dialogue from Osiris. We're getting it from Osiris. We're getting it from Amanda, Saint. We're getting Saladin. We're getting all this banter. Shax is the one main one we haven't really gotten anything from, and I feel like push comes to shove. We are now about to enter year 7 of this franchise. You got to give Shax some plot relevance because you can't expect everybody to read the lore. I mean, even in the taking back of the city in the Red War, as far as the in-game story goes, that if you don't read the lore, Shax did fuck all.
Yeah, which is weird because if you have read the lore, Shax has done so much.
It's Shax,
from the building of the first city to everything with the warlords and the Iron Lords back in the day to the Great Ahamkara hunt, to Shax's importance to Guardian everyday life, like the Crucible is just that. That's where Guardians are made, His whole mantra of if you can kill a Guardian, you can kill anything. This is where we come to train, I feel like Shax has so much to add to the game, and makes me sad that my favorite Titan isn't there.
Yeah, and it's just getting to the point where they're gonna have to do something, unfortunately. But I mean, heck, even Lakshmi has a new voice actor as well because they even cast celebrity actors for those 3 roles, and of course they've never been used in Destiny 2. So, but that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up tonight. This has been an extra long episode. We're nearing 2 hours.
Still shorter
John,
than I thought it was going to be.
Still shorter than I thought it was going to be. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I appreciate it on such short notice.
Anytime.
John, let the people know where to find you.
They can find me on Twitter and Xbox at A1Johnny with 3 N's.
3 N's, baby. Of course, you can find me, as always, Twitter and Twitch, at Josh_Finn with 2 N's. I meant to say this at the top of the show, if you've made it this far, but Corey is not here this week. He is recording Pow Block episode number 250 tonight with Ed. They are recording at least part of it tonight to air in a couple of weeks, unless you were watching the Twitch live stream tonight. Corey also has not done Expunge or Vault yet, so we wanted to let him sit out until he gets to this. Hopefully, we can run him through Vault sometime in the next week. If not, though, Corey's going to come on, and we're going to talk about Vault next week. He'll be back, as always. So until next time, take it easy, stay safe out there, and we'll see you, Starside Guardians. Thank you so much.
Later.